Thank you all for joining us for this afternoon session. Believe it or not, I checked my email again. Everybody wants to know all about dashboards, so that's what we're going to be going over today. My name again is Damian Snook. I'm the Director of Engagement Analytics with Element.
And my name is Megan Butts, and I'm the Senior Engagement Analyst under Damian's team.
Awesome.
All right, so we're here talking about dashboards, and our dashboards that we provide you guys, we call Insights 451. But for some of you, you haven't gotten to experience it just yet, so we wanted to kind of go over what Insights means to you and what we offer. So Insights 451 is going to be this beautiful tool with a whole bunch of visualizations, and it's all of your data in Element. It's not just your student data. We show you data about your emails and their success rates, student sources, events, and then, of course, our favorite, the funnel. So there's, I think, about 5 or 6 tabs of data that you get during implementation. So during your implementation phase, you're going through 10 weeks of learning the product, getting your data in there, starting to use your instance. Then towards the end of your implementation, a little bit after, we work with you to build your Insights dashboard. We go over what each visualization means to you and how you can use it to make informed decisions. And then we have the option to allow for customization. So we offer you a great set of tabs of reporting, but you do have the option to work with us to do more personal reports. What's awesome is you're also able to download those as well. So you're looking at it, you can click the gear right next to it and save those reports to your computer. You also have control panels in there. So we're going to show you all of your data up front. The funnel stage is all the students in the funnel for fall 2022. But let's say you really want to focus on where your freshmen are at, where your transfers are at. There's controls on those tabs to where you can filter down those same exact visualizations, but just for that specific audience. So our tool that we have is super awesome, has a whole bunch of extra controls and features and filters to really show you a more narrow group or the more broad group. So today we're going to cover some new features and kind of show off with a few demos. We're going to talk about the expanded access that Artis had mentioned yesterday, then go into the Snowflake data warehouse, talk about our new authorship role that you can get, and then go into some of the new dashboards and our new documentation. So a lot of fun new stuff coming your way. So the first one we're going to go into is expanded access. So for new and renewing clients, Insights is going to be available to everyone on your team. So going into kind of why we did that, we noticed that there were kind of 3 major challenges. First one, few users, many uses. In our old kind of limited access, you were given 1 seat within the contract. You could buy more. But what we're finding is we stuck with 1 seat. It normally went to someone in the leadership role that looked at that sheet maybe once a week, once a month, whenever they just needed that exact data. We kind of thought about it from the admissions role, your marketers. You guys need to see that data too. You don't know how your emails are doing. You don't know where your students are that signed up for that campus tour event, where they're at in the funnel. So we thought it would be, open it up, let more people see it. Gateway to data. Another challenge, the gateway to data. So yes, we're going to offer this great Snowflake tool, but the only other place you can really pull your data out is through the export module. So we wanted to give more people the opportunity to look at that. And then the individual user management. Turnover. We know turnover is a thing, and something that I experience in live support is getting beautiful messages from you guys saying, hey, someone left, they need the Insights seat now. I have to work with someone else on the team to get that to switch out, to put on your instance, and it's a lot of back and forth, and it unfortunately happens a lot. So we wanted to kind of take that barrier away, take that time away, and just give it to everyone. So what we kind of just summarized everything I said. A lot of different people will get benefits from seeing the different Insights tabs, not just the one leadership person that had access during the implementation. You'll be able to see all sorts of different data easier. Because like I said, the only other way you can quickly get it is exporting it out of the system and then making your own visualizations if you didn't have the insight seat before. And then the last one is making my job a little bit easier, not having to figure out who needs that insight seat. Let me flip it out for you. So everyone's going to get it.
Awesome. So next one, Artis touched on, which is Snowflake. So Snowflake is a data warehouse, and we're transitioning our insights data to that warehouse. Has some benefits. We're not going to go too in-depth on this because the tech of it doesn't matter too much. But kind of the broad strokes that I want to touch on is our old data models were pretty rigid. It's tough to get data out of it. The transformations that we were doing inside insights couldn't be recreated in quite the same way. So what we'd see a lot of is issues with data accuracy, that you'd see it one way within Element, within our interface, then you go to insights and see maybe a slightly different calculation and wonder, well, which of these is correct? It's not that either is wrong, but they're transformed in different ways. And no access to underlying data. So as Megan said, you could always run a data export, but if you're looking to do more, do custom reporting, maybe your institutional research office is looking for access, there's really no direct link there. So what Snowflake does for us is resolve those. First thing is that it provides full access to source data. And so you can get access to that underlying data. You can run models of your own, as Artis mentioned yesterday, dump it into your own business intelligence tool. You can work with IT and institutional research to do any work that they would like, and know that it's consistent between systems. That's because it's automated. So we've got automated data pipelines, validation, the transformations are the same between systems with Snowflake. And again, as Artis mentioned yesterday, with the data sharing, whether or not you already have a Snowflake account, we're able to provide that to you and your team in a way that makes sense. So again, if you're interested in that, that's something that you can work with our customer success team on.
All right, the next feature we wanted to talk about is our new authorship role. So I had talked about in the beginning, we do have a standard template that has a whole bunch of great information. But you do have an option to do some more custom reporting with someone on our team. We wanted to kind of jump a little bit further and allow people to do it themselves if they want to. And so the challenges we saw is we had the template. No self-customization unless you reached out to us, work out some sort of deal or whatever to get more custom reporting. That requires, some time for us to build it, go back and forth between editing, so it takes a little bit of time. Lack of technical expertise. Yes, we have the Snowflake data sharing, you can have all your data, but if you stare at that, you might get really lost and confused if you're not really familiar with that process. And then the other issue we're having is the no real-time reporting. We keep saying how you can export your data through the export module, but as soon as you export it, it's technically out of date because it's not live updating all the time. So what we decided to do, we wanted to give kind of you guys the steering wheel and ability to create additional reports on your insights. What's great about insights is it's super easy to pick up, especially if you've used another tool like Power BI or Tableau. The visualizations are drag and drop. The fields are all there that are in your Element instance, and we've created additional ones, calculated ones, that we've been using in the template version. And then the data is up to date. It refreshes automatically, so you're not having to rerun that export on a schedule to make sure it's all up to date. It updates automatically. So we wanted to kind of show you what that demo of what an author role looks like. So we're gonna switch it over.
One thing to note is that this will be embedded in Element, so you won't need to go to a different site or anything like that.
All right, so this is what me and Damien get to see all the time when we're helping with your insights. So what you are seeing is kind of the edited version of your insights. So we have a whole bunch of different charts and graphs, but as you can see, on the left-hand side, you're going to have your fields list. Right below that fields list is all the different types of visualizations. So what's great is you can easily, work on a visualization, change it up, and show all the different ways to see it. And some visualizations might work better than others, and this tool kind of allows you to display the same exact numbers different ways and then choose the best way to tell the story. With the fields list as well, we have a whole bunch of different types of fields, so you'll be able to see what's date, what's drop downs, locations. We have the calculated fields as well. Also with the calculated fields, similar to kind of calculated fields in the export module, you're able to take the data we're already collecting and kind of change it up, transform it into something that's more helpful. So in our demo today, we took the state information, the state field, and did a simple if statement. So if the student's state address is in New Jersey, we're going to call them in-state. If it's not in New Jersey, we're going to call it out-of-state. This is a super simple calculated field example just to show you can make the data in Element something crazy, something else to make it more beneficial to your reporting style. So here in the off to the side, we have the out-of-state, in-state as a bar chart. Another cool thing with the insights, I mentioned it in the very beginning, are controls. So that very top panel, the admit term, this is where you can further filter down your data. And what's cool is you can pretty much make any of those fields off to the side a control. And what that control does is filter the visualizations on your dashboard.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I should mention that not all of these features are available at the end of this. We have a list of all the things that we've talked about when they'll be available for you as well. So the main one that we'll talk about today is kind of new and improved dashboards. And so we're looking at the template that Megan discussed earlier, trying to figure out what are ways that we can improve this, what are the questions that we've been receiving from clients that we want to provide answers to through insights. And so doing what we can to really better inform, allow you to, as we expand this access, allow you to make those data-informed decisions, make it easier to interpret the things that you're seeing, the reports, the visualizations within insights. And so we're improving what's already there, and then we're creating new tools as well. And so at the end of this, we'll take a look at a staff performance dashboard all about tasks, which is exciting. This one's a little different than our challenges and solutions. I wanted to walk you through what our process is during this redesign. And so it's really based out of dashboard principles. I'm a graphic designer from way back in my college days. And so I always start with that design aspect. I was print journalism, and so yeah, it looks a little bit different now. But we start from those dashboard principles, we work up from there, and so once we have this outline, we have this design principle, we move into this process with the orange arrows. We form guiding questions. Again, some of these have come from you as clients who say, I really want to know more about how my team is using the system. Okay, let's build a tasks dashboard. Let's make sure that you have a better grasp of that. Some of it comes from our experience. The Element team has a lot of on-campus experience, and so reports that have helped us along the way. So after we've identified those guiding questions, we can identify dimensions. And so Megan, in that author role demo, you could see that list of all of the different fields that are available in Insights. And for that, all of those are dimensions. And so if we have a question, we can then determine what fields do we need to include to visualize that data. And then, obviously, the last step is creating that visualization. Lots of different options of what we can do, but we try to figure out, here's the one that presents it in the best, most effective, easy to interpret way. So, starting with those dashboard principles, again, I won't spend too long on this, but it is my graphic design background, so I always geek out a little bit about it. First thing is design on a grid, and there's examples of all these as well. And so just so things are neat, organized, intuitively laid out, designing things on a grid. So as you go through our dashboards, you will see relative consistency. The things are laid out in a way where everything's neat, organized, easy to find the information that you're looking for. Second one is using size and position for navigation. So we use a lot of large numbers, really pull out where there's some key performance indicators. If there's certain graphs or other visualizations that we feel are particularly important, they'll be up at the top, they'll be a little bit larger. And so we try to, again, make it intuitive for you as you go to a dashboard, that it matches your flow. You know where to go, where to look for the information, and intuitively you know what's most important. Same way, we also want to use icons and colors. So, you see green, that's an improvement. You see red, probably needs some work. And so we incorporate icons, colors, things like that to give you those visual indicators, make it easier to interpret and digest. We also want to contextualize data. That's a really important thing. We don't just want numbers in space, because a number without context doesn't mean too much. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What's the trend behind it? So you'll see in Insights quite a bit. We're looking at term over term comparisons, period over period comparisons. In our tasks dashboard that I'll show you, we're looking at, you could set a week range and then compare that week to the prior week. And then finally, concise organization. Something big that we're doing with this redesign is, rather than having all our reports, all of our visualizations live in one place on one dashboard, is create multiple dashboards. It has several advantages, but it keeps things thematically together. And that means that each individual tab can be more concise, have just a really streamlined and focused theme for each of those dashboards. So examples of this, this is what we'll take a look at as a live demo later, but this is one of the tabs on that task performance dashboard. So you can see that it's designed on a grid. We've got most important information up and to the left, so these large numbers on the left-hand side, this large visualization, that's one that we think is extremely helpful at the top. We've got those icons and colors that I mentioned for quick interpretation. Below that, we've got the contextual information, so comparisons to that prior range, as I mentioned. And then finally, as I mentioned, going from just having a single dashboard to, when you go into Insights, seeing multiple dashboards that are available to you. So again, works in progress. But that represents that first section, dashboard principles, how we use digital design to create these. From there, it's all about content. And so forming guiding questions is next. I just want to walk through these examples of the questions we form, the dimensions that we identify through those questions, and then the visualizations that we create. So I think I have 3 examples here. And so a general guiding question, something that we receive from clients, is, how busy is my team compared to last week? From there, we're going to be looking at tasks, and we can look at a couple of different dimensions. We can look at the due date, the completion date. So what's coming up, what's already been done. And from there, as I mentioned the first session with feature engineering, you can look at other parts of that. So I can identify incomplete tasks by looking at the status of those, the ones that have a due date but don't have a completion date yet. So we're going to look at that for the selected range, and we'll use those controls to let you choose that range that you're interested in. Then we'll take a look at the comparison range, the preceding number of days before it. Then we'll calculate the difference between them, absolutely and relatively. So you've got the raw numbers change and the percent change. So what that looks like are these. So similar to what you saw on the couple previous slides going over design, you have the number of tasks that are due, large number provides the date range, and lets you know how that compares to the previous period. Going back to that guiding question, you have a good sense of how busy your team is. Doesn't give you the full picture, because obviously the tasks can vary from week to week and period to period. So they're still very much needing to use your context, your experience, your analysis, but it at least is starting to paint that picture of the overall number of tasks, the number of incomplete tasks that are still coming up, and so on. Next question for you. Which student sources are most effective? So you're doing student search. There's lots of different sources that you could have for this, and you want to find which ones have the best return on investment for my team. So you're going to identify some dimensions like source, the general category of the source, our favorite, the funnel counts, and the conversion rate between those different funnel stages. What that looks like, I apologize that this one's a little bit small, but each of these rows that you see on the table on the right is a single source. Within a single source segment, And then it has the funnel stages along with conversion rates in the funnel stages. The left hand is a different form of those controls where you can set minimum thresholds. So for search, for those of you who are involved in it, you know that's not all about volume. You might have a source that you get 10,000 applications from, but if it's not yielding any students, then that might not be the best source for you. So it's a balance between the overall volume and the efficiency, the conversion within that source. And so you have some ability to set minimum thresholds in either of those. And then over on the right-hand side, you can see exactly the information that you're looking for. Sort on the funnel count, the funnel stage, the conversion rate. We have some visual indicators for a couple of the key rates like application rate and yield rate. So a good way that you can answer that original question of which sources are most effective. Last one, how do application trends compare to past terms? And so again, we're going to be looking at our funnel data, application submission date, the admit term, and we're going to standardize those terms because obviously it looks a little different from year to year, but we'll standardize it on a single scale. So this is a graph then that looks from August through July, and along the bottom is each week. And so 52 weeks that have been standardized, and each of those three colored lines that you see represent cumulative apps for a single term. And so here, again, a real quick way that you can get a sense for how does this compare to last year. Pink line, where we are in fall 2022, was very similar to that purple line, fall 2021, up until February. And then all of a sudden, they started to diverge. Again, doesn't provide the whole story. There's a lot more that you can do, but if you notice that trend is starting to occur, that's when you can use the email reporting. That's when you can look and see which campaigns have been effective. Was there a large event or a source that's been especially effective? And so just a few examples of what our process is going through. The last of the, changing gears a little bit, the last of the updates that we're going to have for you is new documentation, new resources. The image that's here at the bottom, we use a tool that helps to model our data. And so we take the source data from Element, we transform it into something that's cleaner, easier to work with. And so this is a representation of that path that our data takes. And so we're combining different data sources to distill it into this single source for you. Especially since we are increasing access, letting more people have access to it, the ability to get the underlying data through Snowflake, having the authorship role, we know that we need to do a lot more in terms of providing documentation and resources. So what is this transformation? What are we doing with the values to reach these fields that we come up with? As well as how to utilize the system. So this could be help articles, webinars, all sorts of things that we know that we need to provide. So you have these references and resources, whether you're a user that's doing it right in Element, or if you're someone working directly with Snowflake data. So, as promised, we have upcoming features and when they're available. So Snowflake Data Warehouse is available today. If you're interested, again, you can work with the customer success team, get in touch with them. And again, whether you have or don't have a Snowflake account, we can work with you to get you that data. New dashboards are going to be coming next month. And so the staff performance, the tasks dashboard that we'll be previewing will be available. And then we're working on a large number of other dashboards as well. Because we're doing this modular format where there's multiple smaller dashboards, it also means that we can roll these out rather than changing everything all at once. So you'll see the first of those coming up next month for sure. Expanded access for those new and renewing clients, that is also coming next month. The optional authorship role in September, and then documentation and resources. It's going to be an ongoing process, but we want to make sure to have a big release of those October or November. We're going to go into the demo, but any quick questions before we go into that about any of the features we discussed? Yeah, Central.
In order to use Insights, did you say we have to have a Snowflake account?
No, so that's a great question. The question was, do you need to have a Snowflake account in order to use Insights? So everyone is going to be able to use Insights, and it's embedded directly into Element. I'll make sure to show that as we go over to the demo. But it's something that's available. If you want access to the underlying data, again, that could be important for an institutional research team, maybe doing advanced data science, data modeling, or something like that. That's when you might need to have a Snowflake account or at least access to our Snowflake data. Great question. Any other questions before we go into the demo? All right. So, exciting stuff. For those who don't have insights yet, or those who aren't insight seat holders currently, under our Data and Automations tab is an Insights menu. It'll end up looking something like this with these multiple dashboards. So currently, there's just a single option that says General, but we'll have multiple dashboards that are available. So this is where it resides in Element. Going to our tasks performance dashboard, you can see this here. So as Megan mentioned earlier, we have these controls to help you filter the data and shape it exactly as you would like. So you can choose your date range. By default, it's taking the beginning of last week to the end of next week. So you've got about a 3-week period there that's looking at. But if you just want a specific week, you can narrow your search from there. You can also filter, and before I get into it, I want to thank Linnell for letting us use CMO data. So this is an example of an actual client that we work with, so you can see all the information that they have. So you can look and filter this by an individual team, and so maybe you have a processing team that has tasks assigned to them, admissions counselors, maybe your leadership. Student ambassadors might have tasks as well. So regardless of who's in the system, you can filter it based on the team, their position, an individual staff member, or an individual task. And so this dashboard is all about those tasks that you're creating in Element and getting a good understanding of how your team is using them. You can change the display results, which won't affect this one too much, but in the other tabs that we look at does have an impact. So this one, as I mentioned in our design section, is really focusing on those high-level big numbers. And so you can see a few different ways that we look at this, a few different dimensions that we've identified. So the number of tasks that are created in the state range, the ones that are due, the ones that have been completed, the percent for completion, and the percent that's completed on time. Below them, we want to pull out some insights as well. And so for essentially each of those points above, we're pulling out, for the most part, the top. And so those tasks that are most common, the ones that have the most creations during that range, the ones that are most due, the ones that have been completed the most. So you can see, for example, there, co-video, that Linnell's team has co-video messages as some of their tasks. Individuals and how many they've completed, that sort of information. So high level on our first tab.
So then we're going to hop into the second tab, which is going to drill into specific task creation. And something that we really think about is, you know how you read a book, you start from left to right. With dashboards, you kind of want to do the same thing, where you're going to start in the top left and work your way through. So that's why we really drew attention and did first, that big number of tasks created. Again, you're going to see those colors, those icons to get a little bit more further information, and then with the smaller text, additional, what does this number refer to? On our task creation tab, we're also utilizing a heat map. So the darker colors means there are a heavier amount of tasks being created during that week or during that day at a certain time. So you're seeing with CMO's data, Monday, kind of first in the morning is where we're seeing a lot of tasks getting generated. Some other things is we do have the insight tile, so that's showing again your top 5 tasks created during that time. And then a little bit lower goes into some bar charts. And so these bar charts are different dimensions as well. This one is task type and name. So here we have the comparison of phone call and review upload document and seeing those on those days, how many are getting created. And then the one next to it is create tasks by team, position, and staff member. So with these, what's really cool that we haven't mentioned yet is you're able to drill down into it and back up. So you can get very specific with your data, look at a different dimension, or you can go back up to the original. And then right below that one, another type of heat map. This one looks a little bit different as we were looking at the dates and times. This time we're looking at the task and team. So the International Education and Services is really doing a lot of upload document tasks. And then right below it, you'll see we have our task log, which is just kind of a summary of those tasks that were created for the week. The due tasks is going to have a very similar format, but rather than focus on when tasks were created, we're really focusing on the due date of the task. So all of these dates and numbers are going to refer to the due date and the week we've selected on the controls. So again, we have that big number, the icon, the colors, and the details. Here we have a map of the heat map of due dates. So the International Education and Services, that the week we have selected, they have 221 review upload documents due this week. Again, we have more insights on the left-hand side showing top 5 tasks due for the week, and then staff members with tasks due for the week as well. Very similar to the other tab, but again, focusing on that due date. So this one is the tasks by type and name, and then team and staff member. You have the ability to drill further into it or go back to the original. And then we do have status as well by team, position, and staff member. Then at the very bottom, the counts and completions by type and task. And what's cool about these tables is you are able to minimize on the far left and maximize to kind of just look at specifics altogether, or you want it broken out by the task.
Next up are incomplete tasks, and so you can look ahead and see the tasks that are still incomplete, or you can go back in time and see the ones that had not been completed at that time. And so this is the one that I provided those screenshot examples of. But similar look and feel to these as well, that we have those large numbers of KPIs over on the left-hand side, so you get the quick idea of how many tasks are due, how many incomplete tasks are in that range, and the completion percentage. This is also what's reflected in this top bar graph, which has information where it's broken down. The blue color are complete tasks. Your red color is incomplete tasks, and then the line above it is your completion rate by day. And so this is where that control up at the top comes in handy, that we're looking at 3 weeks right now. If you don't want to look at the day and you want to look at it week to week, you can change your view, and that now you've aggregated it. So we're looking at the week of the 17th rather than individual days. Other things that are here on the incomplete tasks dashboard then are other ways to break this down. Again, similar to what Megan had on the previous slides, we also want to be looking at teams and staff members. It's supposed to be useful for you to have an understanding of, well, what is my team's capacity? Are there a lot of incomplete tasks that are assigned to them this week that they need to tackle? Is there a better way that we can allocate resources? And what are the tasks? Is there a task that has come up that you weren't expecting, that the volume is far higher than you were expecting? Or maybe the duration of those tasks is longer than you were anticipating. So these are things to help you change the way that you're assigning tasks. You can go into your workflows, make adjustments based off of this, and have a good sense for the type of tasks and who's completing them. We also have an incomplete task log, so you can go in and see all of the incomplete tasks in one place. Task completion then is the last one. I mentioned that one of the things that you might be interested in is duration of tasks. And so how long are you budgeting your tasks for? How long is it taking for team members to complete that? And again, gives you a good sense of, this is a good workflow. This, we expect it to take 2 days to complete this task. It's 98% on time. It's taking them 2 days. Perfect. Or here's one that doesn't really line up with that. It's skewed one way or the other. We're not completing it on time. It's a more complex process than we thought. The volume was higher than we thought. So again, similar variations on a theme where we have the number of tasks that are due, the ones that were completed, the due tasks that are completed, and the due tasks completed on time. So those get more complex, but they do have descriptions underneath each of them, which is essentially saying, within this date range, let's look at the due date. Now let's look at the ones that are complete, and of those that were completed within this date range, here's the count of those. And so it gets into some really specific details. As I mentioned down below, we also have average days budgeted, and so there's a lot of these that are set out into the future for CMO, as well as the average days taken. Again, this is where filtering comes in handy, so you can look at just a specific task, because obviously your durations and your budgeting is going to change quite a bit from task to task. Similar to how we've had it in the other dashboard tabs though, you can see that we also have this broken out by type and name. We have another heat map similar to the creation, but this is for task completion, so you can see when your team is tackling these projects. And then finally down below, a couple of views that, again, are looking at budget versus duration. And so you can see which ones have high completion rates, the on-time completion rates, the average number of days that they're taking to complete, as well as that in a bar chart form. So again, lots of ways that you can look at individual team members and their performance, look at individual tasks and the trends that you're seeing there, and hopefully something that goes back to those guiding questions where you're wondering, how busy is my team? What's their capacity? What tasks are they working on? How can we be more efficient with these tasks and workflows that we're using? What do you guys think? Stunned silence I will take. I'm all right with that. What questions do you have about the presentation or specifically about our dashboards or anything else that we've talked about today?
We don't show the insights option in our.
Yeah, so that's probably something I should have led with, which is if you're a newer client and you're still going through onboarding and implementation, usually one of the last things that we're doing in the implementation process is creating insights, because we need to bring in historic data, we got to get live data in your case into the system, and so we'll set it up with you, and the good news for you then is you don't need to learn the old system and the new system. We'll have some of these new tools in place for you. Yeah. Other questions? All right. I think that's it then. We'll be up here if you do have individual questions. Next sessions are here as well. We've got the industry track next door, the product track right here in this room. And I believe that will get started in about 2:15, about 25 minutes, since we got done a little early without questions. Again, thank you all so much for being here. We're really excited to roll this out for you and all the other changes that we have coming to Insights. Thank you.